back to the Yankee and the Brit. I'm Jay, he's Maddie, and it's football season.
Yeah, it's finally back around. Football season coming up. Really excited about it. It's my favorite time of the year.
So I figure we'll go through at some point. We'll give our division winners our way too early Super Bowl picks.
Too early.
But let's talk about what everybody come tomorrow on sports media is going to be talking about, because they always do that shit on a Friday, which used to work back in the day. Oh, a Friday news dump and then it's dead by Monday. It's the internet world. That doesn't happen anymore, but they still do it. Your Cowboys trading away a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance. Jerry Jones letting Dak Prescott know, come down off that cost or we're moving on from you next year.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how any Cowboys organization ever thinks they're going to get anything not spoken about in the media. Like, Jerry Jones could have a shit and we would know about it in the media. That's the nature of the Cowboys.
He does. His name's Steven. All right. No, my bad.
That's harsh.
I don't even mind Steven. I just thought opening for the joke.
So we were like, that's the nature of the Cowboys. On top of that, the 49ers are also probably one of the most popular franchises in the US. And they spent a 4th overall pick, including 3 other 1st-round picks, to get the guy that they've now traded away for a 4th-round pick. Let's not talk about the dismal bit of business that is from the 49ers. It's not dismal now, because getting a 4th-round pick for him, I actually think is quite good. I messaged you saying probably could have got him for a 6th, couldn't we? What I was thinking about it.
But the thing is and I've been getting clapped at all week on the last few days on Facebook and stuff, because I will never fault a team for trying to get better, especially at quarterback, even if it didn't work out. Mm-hmm. So the 49ers took a swing. It didn't work out, but they hit on Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, which to me kind of makes the whole Trey Lance thing a wash for them. Like, I don't think it stings as bad as like people on Facebook want to talk and that kind of stuff. But my thing is, I think the 49ers fucked that whole thing up from the jump. With Jimmy G, with Trey. Then me and you, now the ankle's different, but me and you have talked about it. There is a strength and conditioning problem in 100%. San Francisco. Guys are always injured. So Trey's first year, he gets injured. That's what they say. I don't believe the whole finger shit, but that's what they're saying now. They just wanted to rock with Jimmy G, let him sit a year. I didn't have a problem with that. Then his ankle falls the fuck off in game 2 of the week he's supposed to start, right? Like this second start. I have never seen a 1st-round quarterback, especially somebody you moved up for, only get 4 games to prove himself, when we can go through a list of guys who got 4 years or more.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Wright is saying this quite a lot at the moment, where he's kind of saying he's just not had the time, but he didn't have the time in college. When Trey Lance was coming into the draft, I said, if you don't have the time in college, if you don't win at college, then you're probably not going to do well in the NFL, because you have so much less time just to adapt and get ready. Yes, he got screwed with COVID. Who's the quarterback? Same class, same recruiting class as him, got drafted this year. Abbreviation of the name. You wanted the Vikings to take him.
DTR. Yeah.
DTR. Thank you. DTR was the same recruiting class as Trey Lance, but has paid thousands and thousands of minutes more because he stayed in college longer. Trey Lance, take your draft stock while it's there. You probably would never get him drafted 4th overall in your wildest dreams anyway. So, but I think, yes, the strength and conditioning, massive problem, and unfortunate to get injured as well, and just a totally unlucky situation from Trey Lance. But I never thought he was that guy coming out anyway, because I think you need a decent sample size on a guy in order to especially to justify moving up that much. Now, if the 49ers stay where they are and took Mac Jones, and were able to take Mac Jones and stayed where they are because he fell to them, or Justin Fields, and I know you don't like Justin Fields, but he probably would have looked pretty decent in that 49ers team. He would suit it right. I can't believe you still have this graphic. We haven't done this. We haven't done this for months.
until kickoff of Thursday. You got to eat that graphic until kickoff on Thursday.
I genuinely thought you wouldn't have it. I genuinely thought you wouldn't have it. But yeah, I think that's a bad bit of business from the 49ers, but actually getting a 4th round pick from him is pretty good. What does that mean for the Cowboys? I agree with you. I think it's a play to make Dak kind of come down off his high horse bit.
If you get Dak to take less money, the 4th, you just spent the 4th for negotiating. Yeah. I would do that. But if you can, like, I've been hearing this from a lot of people in the, like, not the Mike Florios, but the Chris Simses, the guys who played, right? And it's not saying guys who didn't play don't know sports, but these guys understand, like, coaching is everything when you're young. And Mike Shanahan's system's really not as quarterback friendly as a lot of people think from what I've been hearing, right? Like, it's not a Sean McVay, a Kevin O'Connell, like, it's different. And it from a lot of these guys are like, it didn't fit what Trey does. It doesn't fit what Trey does. And Shanahan is less likely to bend his offense. They were saying, you hear guys like Dan Orlovsky talk about the offense doesn't change a whole lot from quarterback to quarterback, right? So, like, they don't fit the scheme around the player as much as the player into the scheme. I'm not saying that Trey Lance will be good. I'm not saying he will be awful. What I'm saying is good thing for this kid to get out of there. He needs out of there to go somewhere else and try. And if you do end up playing, because you've seen Dak has a history of getting hurt at times, right? You do end up playing. You got a ton of fucking talent around you. Like, you, and he did in San Francisco too, but the receiving core is different in Dallas. It's just different. Like, the receiving core in the 49ers, they have a great receiving core, but they're built on tough receivers, hit you in the mouth, run the ball, right? Like, you guys got receivers that are going to get open, who are going to.
It's a more traditional receiving core as well, like that you're used to working with as a quarterback from a young age. Like,
and then look at the receivers you got there. Yeah, they're like real. Like, you got probably 2 number 1 receivers right now. I know some people argue that CeeDee Lamb's not a number 1, but that's more of a what do you call it? Them just being
like
haters, right?
Yeah, or like a style fit a lot of the time. Like, it does CeeDee Lamb necessarily fit this style of a traditional wide receiver 1? Like, I would say yes, he does. You're used to him in Oklahoma just fucking running people over after the catch, but he can still do all of that other stuff as well. There's a reason he looks unbelievable in Pro Bowl catching drill things, doing absolutely ridiculous stuff. You also have Brandon Cooks, who I would say he's probably like top tier wide receiver 2. He's one of those guys where if he's your wide receiver 2, you're really happy. If he's your wide receiver 1, you're looking for another wide receiver 1.
It's such a weird thing to me. And I want to know how you feel. And sorry about getting caught off guard. My amazing wife brought me here. But he is the most traded, really good fucking receiver I've ever seen in the NFL. And I think he is a true number 1, and the only thing that makes people go, he's not really a number 1, is his height, and I don't care because he's proved he can play right at this level. And I know he's getting older, and you definitely want to have deeper receiving core, but I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves as a receiver. Yeah. And in the Texans, they're always like, everybody's always back to Hopkins. Well, quit comparing people to Hopkins when he was in his fucking prime, first of all, because that's ridiculous standard to live up to. And the 49ers, the Cowboys, nobody's ever argued their talent, right? It's like, what keeps every year the conversation is, what keeps the Cowboys from utilizing all of their talent and maximizing everything around them, right? That's always the question. And I shit on Dak to you more than I dislike Dak, just because you're a Cowboys fan and it's fun to, like, dig a little. But there's guys in this league that you just wonder, like, hey, I see things, and then it never comes to fruition. And I think Dak's best year, his fucking leg almost fell off, right?
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah, so that was the year where it was all coming to fruition, because he was able to. The biggest thing about Dak is he was able to run. Like, he genuinely had a threat with his legs as well as being able to run. I think it really helps this Cowboys offense. I mean, Greer played an excellent game. He's going to be our 4th string quarterback now. He played an excellent game in preseason, using his legs, skipping around and stuff like that last night. He was excellent.
He's going to be your third because Cooper Rush is gone.
Yeah, Cooper Rush is going to have to go. That's what I was just going to come on to. So you have Grit, who he looked excellent though, like last night, and I think Lance will fit in well when he comes in. I would like to see him introduced on a few gadget plays and stuff like that. The guy's an athlete. Like, he's a total athlete. Could he have some Taysom Hill qualities embedded in this? Yeah.
From every report,
he seemed to take it well.
Good human being, right?
Yeah.
It can never hurt to have good dudes. And the most popular guy in the locker room is always the backup quarterback.
Yeah. So Trey Lance coming at 2, and then Cooper Rush is out the door, unfortunately. I mean, Cooper Rush can get on. Cooper Rush can be an excellent backup quarterback.
He'll get a job.
I feel like what's happened here is the Cowboys have taken a really safe backup quarterback option that we have when we know Dak is probably going to miss at least a game. Like, that's the trend that we're looking at so far. He's going to miss at least a game, maybe 2. And we've taken a really safe option.
The only thing comes up next year is when they're both owed such huge money, right? Like,
yeah,
Dak's going to make a lot of money, and Trey's going into that last year of that rookie deal, unless you give him the 5th-year option. But
yeah,
that last year pays him out like, I think $6-8 million or something next year. I looked it up the other day and forgot, but that's a lot of money to pay your backup, unless you're Chase Daniels, who could start like 6 games back in the day, right? Like back, when they paid, you put a veteran behind a rookie and you overpay him so that the rookie can learn from the veteran. But I really feel like this is a signal of Jerry going, we're kind of done with you, Dak. So either get on board or we're just going to move on.
Yeah, I think it's more Jerry's seen a shiny new toy. And so what annoys me about this is I had a lot of options to go get shiny new toys so far in this offseason and hasn't taken them. Would I have rather them spend the money on Dalvin Cook? Yes, 100%.
I am so glad he did not go to Dallas. I am not going to lie, because he's in a spot now where I can kind of still cheer for the guy, right? Like, he's in the AFC. He's on the sweetheart team this year. He's with Aaron Rodgers. Like, it's kind of a good feel-good story. As a Vikings fan, I can stomach that, because I was okay with moving on from Delvin. I just didn't want to see Delvin with some team I didn't want to see Delvin with. You know what I mean? I don't want him to – the only time I want Delvin to even be a discussion in Minnesota is if we're in the Super Bowl against him. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to defend him, and I don't want to see him in the playoffs because he's still got a lot of gas, but I get why the Vikings were like, we're not paying him fucking $12 million. We're just not doing it. Like,
would I have rather have seen us have Jonathan Taylor on the team rather than Trey Lance? Fuck yes, of course. Like, of course I would have loved to have seen that.
That might still happen.
Yeah. Jerry's seen the shiny new quarterback toy and has picked it up and gone, oh, this could be fun. Let's see. I really hope that he comes in and balls out in training. And if he saves us $8 million on Dak's contract, then it was business worth doing, I guess.
And then
I don't see it personally.
Let's say in the scheme of things, just, since we're here in the world of what ifs. Yeah. Let's say they come into it, and by the end of this year, they're like, Trey can start for us. Right? Let's say, Trey, we're moving on. You're going to get a first and something for Dak. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So you either re-sign Dak, and that's a negotiating tool, or you find your quarterback of the future, you move on, and you're gonna make up those picks if you have to get rid of Dak. So it's either that 4th-round pick was a negotiating tool, or you move on and you upgrade your picks anyway if you move on to a quarterback that you think you can do it. I also think this is Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, you're on fucking notice. This is your year. And if you don't do it, we'll just start over with a new coach, new quarterback.
I've already missed out on Sean Payton, so there's no point. But yeah.
I really like the youth movement in the NFL right now because it's changing the game, right? Like, you know me, I was a big Zimmer fan. But Zimmer ran out his welcome in Minnesota, not as a person, but as a play caller by the time it was time to go, because he wouldn't come off of run the ball on first down, run the ball on second down, and then make the offense throw on 3rd and fucking 8 every time, right? Like he fired DeFilippo in the middle of the season because he passed the ball too much. Yet we were having a great fucking offensive run if you would have just let him play that way against it. So this Kevin O'Connell coming out and, like, we're going to throw the fucking ball. And it's the league now. So I'm okay with this youth movement. You and I both were never, like, okay with the McCarthy thing. We were kind of like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah,
that
just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, strange hire. Anyway, but back to Trey Lance. It's just a quick question. What's more likely, Dak Prescott or Trey Lance is the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys in 2 seasons' time?
I think it's 50-50.
You think it's 50-50? I think it's Dak. I don't see it in Trey at all.
I got this weird feeling that Jerry's at the point, and this is just my opinion, right? Like, your NFC Championship game, or we're probably moving on.
I don't see Trey Lance doing it, and I don't see a big upgrade from Dak that is actually attainable. You know what I mean?
But isn't what they've been doing kind of the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, like. And maybe it's not even Dak's fault, right? Maybe it's just something like that doesn't mesh well. But it feels like every year I hear Cowboys going to go. They got the team to go to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And then something happens. If it's injury or if it's a bad play. Last year, he was the interception fucking king. Do I think he'll have that many interceptions this year? Probably not. Like, it's just probably not, right? But if he does, then it shows a bigger problem too. I'm actually okay with the move. I think it was a forward-thinking move that hedges your bets either way. And if you hit, you fucking hit for a 4th-round pick, which is like the most Cowboy thing ever, right? Like with Dak, 4th-round pick, Tony Romo, undrafted free agent. Like, it's the most Cowboys thing, right? But if you hit gold. And then if you don't, all it costs you is a 4th. And I know a lot of 4th-round picks start in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. I actually think that there was a graphic that I saw that 4th-round picks make up the majority of the round of players in the NFL if you separated them by picks. I get it's not a throwaway pick, but it's also it's a 4th-round pick. Like, you know what I mean? You're right on. If everybody would have said it's a 5th-round pick, everybody would have been like, well, that's a throwaway pick. 4th is kind of that borderline of, you can get a starter, and the way that GMs think about it. I think the Cowboys did a great move by doing it, and there was big discussions between people online, and I kept saying the best place for Trey Lance is Minnesota or Dallas, and everybody was like, really? I'm like, Minnesota doesn't know what they're doing with Kirk after this year. I believe they all have a plan that we just don't know about, right? But and the Dak shit with the Cowboys. Like, you're not forced in, but you could literally be the starter next year if everything works out all right. There was a couple more teams I threw in there, but they were 2 of the teams I was like, it's not a bad move for these teams to make.
Yeah, I thought he'd go to Minnesota because of the Minnesota connection as well. The NFL just doesn't seem to have that fairy tale essence so we're used to that in the UK, where you end up either going back to or end up with your boyhood club and stuff like that. It doesn't really happen in the NFL.
I think they would have done it before the draft. After they got Jaren Hall, I think they're really liking what they see. And I'm not saying Jaren Hall is the next Viking starter. I'm just saying I've been really impressed watching him play. And everybody's like, he's playing against the 2s and the 3s. I get that. But what I'm impressed with is he's throwing into tight windows. He's accurate. Yeah. He's reading the field. These are the things I wanted to see in preseason. So I get why the Minnesota coaching staff might not be there anymore, but I think they would have absolutely gave up. They probably would have gave you a 3rd or maybe even a 2nd before the draft, right? Like, but now, well, we couldn't have gave up a 2nd. We didn't have one, but you get my point. Like, so I think they'd have got more. The problem is that San Francisco, I think, was holding on to him for dear life. Like, they didn't want to look bad, and I'll give them credit that they finally just went, it doesn't matter how we look, we just got to move on and win.
Yeah, don't double down on a mistake, like don't be stubborn when you made a mistake. Like, admit you've done wrong, move on. And Trey Lance probably was a 4th-round quarterback coming out of the draft anyway. So,
well, it's like if he had got drafted at 15, 18, 22, like me and you were talking about coming out of the draft, we thought he'd fall deeper. Like there was chances I thought he'd be sitting there. I think they were drafting 22 or 24 with the Vikings in that draft. Like there was a chance we thought he could fall to them, right? And then next thing you know, he goes third or fourth overall. Like it's like, come on, man. Like they put so much pressure on these kids that aren't needed. And I agree, if the 49ers would have just sat there, they could have probably either got him or Mac Jones. I'm just not a believer that Mac Jones would have changed life over there either, though. I think Mac Jones is a good quarterback, but I don't think he's great. And I don't think that it's fair to go, they should have drafted Mac Jones, because, I mean,
they got Brock Purdy in that same draft class anyway. So they got that guy.
You get Mr. Irrelevant, right? Like, and that's a good story. And I keep saying that it's a wash because they got Brock Purdy, and people want to go, but they still wasted all of that. And I was like, if you'd have told an NFL team that they got to give up 3 firsts and a fucking third for a starting NFL quarterback, they don't care who he is.
Yeah. Also, just on top of that as well, it's not like the 49ers have a team that's going to be vastly improved by taking other people's first rounders, you know? Like, so somebody said to me, like, oh, they could have moved, they could have imagine Micah Parsons on that defensive line. And it's like, right, yeah, but they don't need Micah Parsons on that defensive line. Like, yeah, it'd be fucking great, but like, they don't need them on that defensive line. Like, the 49ers are a stacked enough team where, okay, throwing around 3 first-round picks, the process isn't great, but everything's kind of worked out to be totally fine for the 49ers. All they need to do is, what they should be doing is spending those first-round picks on getting the best medical teams into the building. That's what they should be doing.
That would be the dopest trade in the history of the NFL. Like, San Francisco sends a first-round pick to whatever team for their strength and conditioning coach. That would be the dopest trade in the NFL ever.
Yeah, Dallas has a good strength and conditioning team. I'm not talking about just like one strength and conditioning coach, though. Like, that's not going to 49ers is so bad. You need to like actually just, I'm trading 3 first-round picks for the facility, for the staff, for all the knowledge that they have, everything.
So before we move on to like divisional winners and stuff like that, shout out to the Vikings, rated the #1 team by the union and the players last year for the way they treat them. And then this year, shout it out as the #1 facility in the NFL is rated by the players. I'm just saying. And shout out to Kirk Cousins in the top 100 being the 6th best quarterback in the NFL according to players.
Also, shout out to Kirk Cousins for the quarterback documentary, because he came off really well in that and looked super good.
That was a good fucking series. That was a good series, bro.
Great series.
It took me a minute to get into it. We were texting because I kept wanting to watch it, and then shit kept coming up. And then I locked into it and watched it in 2 days. Like, I was like,
amazing.
This thing. Now, I got it. Before we move on, let's talk about that for a quick minute. Like, I think Kirk Cousins came off great to the world, okay? And so do a lot of people. But people are like, Patrick Mahomes came off like an asshole. I don't think so. Like, I don't think
that's just people hate success. That's just people don't like success. That's ridiculous. He comes off as an asshole. No. The guy fucking wins, but also manages to be a down to earth, family first kind of guy. But then you see his massive house, his wife, who we all know hasn't had the best.
I was gonna say that, never a fan of what's her name, Brit, right? But he won me over in the quarterback series.
Yeah, like, she hasn't been the best on social media. Jackson, obviously, that's the thing it was missing, though. Like, they clearly said, we're not talking about Jackson. They should, like, the dude's just been arrested and stuff like that. Like, that would have made everything a bit more real.
It's not fair to put your brother's shit on you, so I get that, right? Like,
100%, but it is a tough.
I did want to hear a little more about it, but I completely understood why they stayed away from it, because it really had nothing to do with what they were getting at. And then that show made me feel bad for Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, me too. His trade to the Eagles is a really good trade for him, though. As well,
he looked bad the Eagles roster. He looked bad.
Yeah, well, I've always quite liked Marcus Mariota. I feel quite sorry for him. for the documentary and stuff like that. What I worry about is having Patrick Mahomes on there and Kirk Cousins, who's renowned as one of the good guys of the NFL. How many quarterbacks are going to want to have to live up to that next year? Because Joey Burrow's already rejected it.
Well, see, Peyton Manning and Omaha Productions came out and said the guys who are rejecting it weren't even asked.
All right, okay.
So they're making that, I would never do it, so I'm the good guy, right? They already got people, but they won't tell anybody who it is. Like, there was only a handful of people in these organizations that even knew this was going on. Like, the players didn't know, like, that this quarterback thing was being filmed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I know people are like, well, how do they not know if a camera's following them?
So many cameras.
Yes, and every team does their own social media version of Hard Knocks now. So, like, that's not that hard to hide it. And I guess they said they already got 3 guys for this year. They just won't say who it is. And so I'm excited to see season 2.
Yeah. There were only a couple of quarterbacks in the NFL that I would understand not doing it. Dak Prescott's one of them, because being the face of the Dallas Cowboys organization, you've got so much media stuff and so much other stuff outside of the game going on anyway. I feel like adding on top of that is unnecessary. And I kind of understand it with Joey Burrow not wanting to do it after. There's no way that they didn't ask Joe Burrow after Pat Mahomes. I don't believe that. I reckon they did ask Joe Burrow and he probably did say no. He probably doesn't want to do it the year after Patrick Mahomes. He'll probably do it next year, I think. I think it'll be, who I would like to see is Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, and I don't know, like Baker Mayfield or something might be quite funny.
But it's not Trevor Lawrence, according to the rumors.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield in Tampa would be funny this year as well.
That wouldn't be bad, though. Like, it'd be the Marcus Mariota, like, version of.
Yeah. I imagine that's how they'll like do it and like frame it up, right?
All right. Well, let's just go through the divisions. How about that? And let's start like we'll hit the AFC and the NFC, back to back of the North, the East, the whatever, and let's just start with the AFC North. Let's start with the AFC North. What
AFC? Okay. Are we just going division winners, or are we going?
Well, you can tell me where you think they'll end up, but instead of like the previous years where we went through each of the scheduled games, I don't think people really care about each week individually. And so, like, we can just go who you think 1 through 4.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's do that. Cool. So AFC North, as you can see, guys, we kind of just jump on here and just
we talk
our thing.
We talk outside what we want to do. We just don't necessarily have an exact order of how we want to do it, because we take left turns all the time anyway.
We don't like to have a clear structure, because we like to give ourselves scope to go talk about quarterback documentaries that we totally forgot happened in the time where we were off. But for me, the AFC North, I'm going to start from the bottom and go up. I've got the Browns at 4. I've got the Steelers in at 3. And then I have the Bengals second, and I have the Ravens as division champions overall.
Damn, Maddie. I'll let you get more into that in a second. I'll just give you mine quick. I have the Steelers at 4, the Browns at 3, and I'm just going to say this. The only reason I did that is because I think this is Deshaun Watson. Get up and stop. Like, get off all the old shit. Let's start over and be the Deshaun Watson you're supposed to be. I got the Ravens at 2, and I got the Bengals winning the division again, which is low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, I think I've got the Browns at the bottom. I think the Browns are a historically not well-run organization. Even the time where they were, there was a moment, like when we first started this podcast, where we were like, yeah, love the Browns, love what they're doing, really excited about everything. And they managed to fuck it up royally still. Like, they still managed to, they built everything properly and still managed to fuck it up.
I hated watching Kevin Stefanski leave the Vikings, and now I'm like, thanks for taking them off our hands.
Yeah. And then I think you've got the Steelers, who are, and I don't think Deshaun Watson is going to have this great comeback season that everybody's saying they're going to do. I just don't see it.
I think they're way more talented than the Steelers, so that's what makes me go that route.
Yes, but the Steelers are so historically well run, and Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, and somebody in this division is probably going to have a losing season, surely. So the Browns are losing season, Steelers, and then I've got the Bengals in it too. And that it sounds like slander, but it's not. I think the Ravens are going to have such a good season this year. Again, historically well run organization, really like their coaching and leadership up there. But I think also Lamar Jackson is probably coming back 100% healthy for the first time in a while. OBJ moving over there, I think, gives him the reason to be like OBJ has a point to prove, but they're fine. OBJ is finally going somewhere and under the radar. Like, people aren't talking about OBJ being the best wide receiver in the league and stuff like that, which just means OBJ can go about being an excellent wide receiver that he is without the crazy amounts of media attention that he's having most of the time. The last time we saw OBJ 100% healthy, he was in the Super Bowl and on course to be Super Bowl MVP. And I just think the Bengals have had 2 years where they've come so close both times. And I just think that takes an emotional drain on a team. And I think they might have a bit of a come down year this year. But a come down year for them is still finishing probably like 10-7, So yeah, that's where I am. That's where I am with the AFC North.
Yeah, I just think the Bengals with Joe Burrow win it again, but I like the pick of the Ravens. Because I thought about it for a second, and I'm just like, I just don't trust it. So I'm not I don't hate it. I just I like the balls jumping out there on a limb from you, and this is going to be something different.
8 teams change over. This is honestly my favorite piece of Colin Cowherd is an annoying man to listen to, but he does come up with some gems a lot of the time. And my favorite thing he says is historically 8 teams change over. So 8 teams that were in the playoffs last year don't make it, and 8 teams that do make it. And I think obviously, spoiler alert, I do have the Bengals making it through in the wild card round. And stuff, but I think the division champions will change over a decent amount this year. Right. I imagine we're going to the AFC East next.
No, I said let's go back and forth from the
cool.
AFC and the NFC. So let's go NFC North. Cool. We'll do it that way, so I don't confuse myself trying to remember which teams we went through. So NFC North, I got Bears at 4, Lions at 3, Packers at 2, Vikings winning the division.
Yeah, I've got the Bears at 4. Do I have the Bears at 4? Yeah, I've got the Bears at 4. I've got the Packers at 3, the Lions at 2, and I have the Vikings winning the division.
You like that?
What I don't understand is this whole mantra of, and we've spoken about it a few times in the offseason, everybody's saying the Vikings won't win this many one-score games going into they won't. They'll be double-score games. So, yeah.
And you can have a better season and a worse record. I know people think that's crazy, but you can be a better team and have a worse record. I got the Vikings at 12-5. I wouldn't even be shocked at 11-6. But I still think that wins the division. I think the Lions, I think the Bears are lucky if they win 5 games this year. I think the Lions are the most overrated team in the NFL right now. So I got them at 9 wins. And I got the Packers at 9 or 10 wins, edging out the Lions.
Yeah, I think I think this is going to go down to the wire. I'm not feeling the same as you in terms of the Lions are the most overrated team. I do think they definitely have the talent, and we've seen.
How come nobody brings into account their bad culture?
However, I don't think they have enough to go over the edge because they're used to having bad culture and bad coaching and a historically bad organization.
And it's not even the coaching, but the culture still has to be bad if you had that many players suspended for gambling, when the gambling rule is fucking pretty simple, right? And then the guy you traded up for who had to sit a half a year in Williamson last year comes out, gets suspended again for 6 games for gambling, and now all the reports is that he's got stone hands and is dropping everything in preseason. I don't know. And my feelings. I think Dan Campbell's a guy I'd like to hang out with. I'd hate to have him coach me. I'd hate it.
Yeah, there's definitely got to be bad organizational trends and bad backroom trends in sport and a competition where you do everything to promote parity, and you can go from worst to first in a season. Like, that doesn't happen in other sports. In Europe, it's mad to us. Like, the top of our leagues, the top of our football leagues are the same teams pretty much every year, and they have been for the past 20 years. So this idea of like parity to then still be garbage across like such a long period of time, have no Super Bowl wins, have very few playoff wins, to in a team of parity, there's got to be reasons outside. So I think it'll go close. It'll be a closer thing for the division champions, but the Lions just don't have what it takes to get over the top. And the Vikings have got one more year under a new coach, so they probably are going to get better under a new coach.
I think so. And this isn't a shot at Adam Thielen, but he didn't do a ton last year. You bring in Addison. KJ Wright was looking good at the end of the year. You got TJ Hawkinson. Muse is looking really good in the preseason. It's the only question in Minnesota's offense right now is the offensive line. There's so many teams that have offensive line questions, and it's because they don't get to fucking practice anymore. They just don't get to practice hard hitting, that kind of stuff. It takes offensive lines ways to kick in. And the way college football is run, the offensive line is so different. It's hard to judge. There's a lot of teams right now. I hear people go, the Vikings don't have any depth at offensive line. Like, nobody has depth at offensive line. Like, a guy goes down, you're probably in trouble, no matter what team you are. So,
yeah. Also, I think there's an important point to be made in terms of the defensive side of the ball for the Vikings. Like, one, can't get much worse, and two, Brian Flores coming in is going to be an upgrade for them.
And Byron Murphy is a legitimate lockdown corner. Like, they got a legitimate number one. And this is really what I'm loving is their 3-4 isn't the same as everybody else's 3-4. They're running 3 safeties instead of the extra linebacker. I fucking love it. I love having that third safety in there. The Vikings are deep at safety, so they're utilizing their strengths. We'll see. I think keeping Danielle Hunter was big for them too. I think that was huge for that defense. But what do you think about the AFC East, Maddie?
Okay, starting from worst to first, we have the New England Patriots. They've just not got any more talent on that side of the ball. And the fact on the offensive side of the ball, they've not got any. Their problem is they're super slow, and they continue to be super slow. Adding a running back who I would have liked to have seen stay with the Cowboys. Like, don't get me wrong, would have liked to have seen Zeke stay on a Cowboy, retire as a Cowboy. Too slow. And when you put him into an offense which has no speed whatsoever, it's not going to work. For third, I have the Buffalo Bills. I think they've done absolutely nothing to get better in this year, and Josh Allen is one more year removed from Brian Daboll. So they've done nothing to get better in the offseason for me. In fact, they've done a decent amount to get worse. Number 2, I've got the New York Jets.
I'm leaving. I'm fucking leaving.
Number 2, are they going to keep Aaron Rodgers upright? Is the question. That's the one question, isn't it?
I know, but everybody's like the offensive line. I'm like, you're talking about the guy who gets the ball out the quickest in NFL history.
Yeah, of course, like 100%, like totally understand that. The Cowboys have played the fucker enough times, like in big situations where we've always had a decent defensive line, and I don't understand how he gets the ball out when we seem to be breathing on top of him. Also, people are saying he's never had a bad offensive line in Green Bay. Hang on, is that because he gets the ball out faster than everybody else? So the stats look. However, the offensive line has not looked good for the Jets, so it's a big question. And also, the other massive question is the Dolphins, with a healthy Tua last year, look genuinely like the best offensive team in the league. They genuinely looked unstoppable. Tua was putting up MVP numbers to start off the year. I'm not saying the trend would have continued all the way through if he remained healthy. So there's a few what ifs there. Would I have loved to have seen Jalen Ramsey playing for the Dolphins in that secondary this year? Yes, it would have been great for them. But I honestly think the Dolphins, with their offense, of speed, and their defensive line depth, is going to be an impressive team this year, as long as Tua stays healthy.
All right. Well, for me, I got it. Patriots, but I will say I think Zeke was perfect for the Patriots because they struggled in short yardage, and I think that will really help them. Then I got the Dolphins because I think Tua has a concussion by week 5. I'm just saying. Like, I'm not hoping, I'm not wishing, but it's one of those things like you watch a boxer. The more times you get knocked out, the easier it happens, and I'm worried about him. I hope he doesn't get injured, but I think that hurts them. And then I got the Bills at 2. I think they got worse. I think I don't think Stephon Diggs wants to be there anymore. I don't care what he comes out and says on his Twitter. There's too much smoke, there's usually a fire. And then I got the Jets. I got the Jets winning that division, and I have the Jets having like 12 wins this year.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets are probably one of the most loaded rosters in the NFL, on top of having Aaron Rodgers now at quarterback. But again, another historically badly run organization as well. Just to put that into the mix, not in the same vein as the Browns and the Lions, but still not good. There's questions on Robert Saleh. Is he the coach? I like Robert Saleh. I think he's a good coach.
I think they have a great head coach. Rodgers is great.
Yeah. And then obviously Nathaniel Hackett coming off. But Nathaniel Hackett worked well with Rodgers, but he just came off one of the worst coaching jobs anybody's ever seen.
Some guys are just great at being coordinators and not good at being head coaches too.
Yeah. Is Nathaniel Hackett that good of a coordinator, or has he just had Aaron Rodgers? Well, I mean, he's got Aaron Rodgers now, so I guess that doesn't matter.
But if you go back to the old Steelers, Dick LeBeau was the best defensive coordinator in the league, was not a good head coach.
Yeah. I mean,
there's just guys who aren't like good at being like. If you go back through the old Patriots coordinators who went on to be head coaches, Romeo Cornell and all those guys, they were great coordinators. They just weren't great head coaches, and it happens because you have to take yourself away from what made you great, right? Like if you're an offensive coordinator, you got to take yourself out, be part of the defense, be part of the special teams. I think it's a whole different ball game, but it's not so much Hackett for me. It's Rodgers, it's Dalvin Cook, it's Garrett. It's these weapons they have, and the defense was good last year, which is just going to get better with those young guys. So I think the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, they do have an incredible roster, so it is difficult to say anybody but the Jets. I genuinely think the Bills are going to miss out on the playoffs this year, though. That's my big call from here. Right. Also, Cooper Rush should go to the Dolphins. Cooper Rush will do an absolute great job in that offense, 100%.
And I've been saying it all offseason, and you know it, but Josh Allen is the only guy who gets a pass for doing the exact same shit that Kirk Cousins or even Dak does and gets crushed for.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, oh, Dak Prescott threw the most interceptions in the NFL. It's like, right, okay, well, obviously, yes, he did. And he also missed quite a few games. But let's remember that Josh Allen is also getting a massive pass because Josh Allen is a baller who throws these massive passes. And it's like, yeah, but he's costing you games. Like, he's also winning them a decent amount of games. Yeah. I'm like, by no means am I saying that Josh Allen is a terrible quarterback. He just needs a coach like Brian Daboll to keep him in check, which he doesn't have. Like, Brian Daboll is able to make Daniel Jones look good. So make Daniel Jones look like a $40 million quarterback.
Well, we'll move on to your NFC East. I'll go first because I'll let you round it off. But, all right, so I got coming in last, the Giants at 4. I got the Commanders at 3. And that is all going to come down to Sam Howell, but I kind of like what I saw in the preseason, and I like the overall team of the Commanders better than the overall team of the Giants. I got the Cowboys at 2, and I got the Eagles winning that division again, but I think Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the NFC.
Yeah, I don't think that's a wild thing to say, and I think that's more of an indictment on the NFC because he's probably just clipping into the top 5 in the AFC. So, you know, that's more of an indictment on the NFC. I've got Washington, whatever they're going to be called when we start the season. We've got the Giants coming in as well. I think the Giants overperformed last year with their roster. they could do it again this year. It's not. I know I've just said, oh, surely if they performed well last year, then they'll be a whole year better just for the Vikings. Hopefully, they'll probably be a whole year better just for the Vikings. But the Giants, if you look at their roster, they overperformed. However, they do have Darren Waller, who they're having to take off the field in order so Daniel Jones will throw the ball to somebody else, or the defense can try and get some reps. I think that's more of an indictment on Daniel Jones and the defense, however. But Darren Waller is excellent addition as well. I've got the Cowboys in second, and I've got the Eagles in first. And I think the whole reason for that is the Eagles, although they've had a huge amount of turnover, holding on to Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson are probably the two best things they did this offseason. That offensive line was impenetrable at points. And the other massive thing that we had is the whole cheating move of basically being able to maul it over the line from anywhere and one, and just being able to push people over the line, which you can't do in any other play in the NFL, but never mind. The NFL didn't have the balls to outlaw that, so they're able to make any third and short play they can. I think the Cowboys have got better in a decent amount of positions. I think I worry about our offensive line this year. It feels older and not wiser, is how I would define our offensive line. I really wanted us to take a center in the draft, and we didn't, because I don't have full faith in Tyler Biadasz. Stephon Gilmore is an excellent pickup. That's probably the best bit of business we did in the offseason. We've always been kind of weak at cornerback too, and it definitely helps. Trayvon Diggs is, I'm just going to go and attack this ball and try and pick it off no matter what the consequences are if I don't make this pick. It definitely helps to have an old, secure cornerback on the other side of the field to help that out as well. And Micah Parsons is a year older, is only going to be playing defensive end. We're going to have the number one defense in the league this year, I think. But then also the Eagles have their terrifying Georgia defensive line where everybody's 100 kilos heavier than everybody else and 2 foot taller than them as well. So it'll be interesting. The NFC East is an interesting division this year.
My only thing about Stephon Gilmore is at what point does he fall off because he's older than Dumbledore?
Yeah. Well, he just needs to be in the right place. Also, Bland had an excellent end to the season last year. I think our secondary looks really good going into this year. When we go into our fantasy things, if I don't get the Dallas Cowboys defense, I might be a little bit upset.
Don't worry. The Canadians already talking about drafting a defense first.
Yeah, and if he doesn't pick the Dallas Cowboys defense, then it's a wasted pick.
Don't get me started. Him and Hitman are already going at it.
I honestly haven't even looked at the chat.
You don't want to look today. It was nothing but shit on Dak.
I can't be in that mentality yet. I can't be in it. We'll have updates about fantasy football.
Chat was nothing but Dak getting dunked on this morning.
Yeah, I'm just not in the place yet. My NFL brain fully switches on the first day of the NFL fantasy draft, which for us is the 2nd of September.
3rd.
Should really do 3rd of September. 3rd. Oh, yeah. I'm getting ready a day early. I'm just going to be sat in that
chair. It was originally that Saturday, but we had to switch it to Sunday because the reigning champ was traveling.
Are we going to do a live feed?
If you guys want to, that was such a shit show last year, but it was funny.
I think we should do a live feed of the draft. I think we should maybe set a few ground rules this time round, so we can actually talk about the draft a little bit.
So we'll go on to the AFC West, and I'll let you start there with the AFC West.
So the AFC West for me, I've got the Raiders coming in at 4. I have the Chargers at 3. I have the Broncos at 2, and I have the Chiefs number 1. The reason for that is the Raiders haven't really done anything to get better, unless you consider Jimmy G as an upgrade from Derek Carr. I think they're the same guy.
Only in the system.
Yeah. I guess the system kind of works for Jimmy G. Not enough to move the needle, especially in that division. I think the Chargers. I think this is going to be the final year for Brandon Staley. I think this is the year where I think it'll fall off the rails as well. Like, I think a few players are going to go, we have this opportunity. Like, if you look at their roster, and especially if you look at their quarterback, a few of the old heads like Keenan Allen and people like that are going to say, you're ruining our opportunity to win. And I think it's going to go off the rails. And again, poorly run organization under their current ownership. I think that Sean Payton to the Broncos, Russell Wilson looks decent in preseason. He looks, he's come back, he's lost some weight. He looks like he's going to actually run the ball this year. I think they've got something ticking over there. And then the Chiefs, am I allowed to just say Mahomes and Andy Reid? Can I just say that as my reason? It feels like you're half.
As long as you put Kelsey in there, I guess I'm good with it.
Yeah, I can. Okay, we can add Kelsey as well.
Because to me, he's the greatest tight end in NFL history. So
yeah, 100%. He's also the best receiver on their team and makes Mahomes look like that much better. So, yeah. Do you see any? I'll let you do your division thing first.
I got the Broncos at 4, and I still think they're going to be a lot better. I just think this is a really tough division. Mm-hmm. I got the Chargers at 3. I got the Raiders at 2 by default of the other two teams being so bad. And then I got the Chiefs winning it all. But this was a hard division for me because past the Chiefs, I could have switched those 3 teams because Justin Herbert is better than the other 2 quarterbacks. I just don't have any faith in their coaching. That's the weird thing. And the only reason I put the Raiders above the Broncos is I just think Jimmy G fits that system better. Derek Carr played like ass last year. And even while playing with ass, Devontae Adams still had top-notch numbers.
Yeah, definitely. I think Devontae Adams with Jimmy G in that system will be better.
And Josh Jacobs is playing for a contract, so he's going to ball out again.
Yeah, definitely. Again, the Raiders, I've started to look at organizations a lot more this year and gone like, do you know what? For the past 2 years, I feel like we're growing as podcasters here, Jay, and as sports commentators, and we like to be realistic with people. And I feel like the first 2 years I've started buying into the media hype of all the teams. So teams like the Lions, where the media are getting all the hype and not looked at the history. And as a history teacher, I feel like I should look at history a bit more often. And the Raiders, they haven't been good for a long time. And it's another reason why I don't think the Cowboys are going to make it to the NFC Championship game this year either. So, do you see any way where the Chiefs don't win this division?
No, Mahomes gets hurt.
Yeah, that's why I'm at. I feel like the Chiefs must have got. Did the Chiefs get better this year? I mean, Chris Jones is out until the 9th. Until week 9.
If they don't get something done, why do I feel like they'll get something done in this next 2 weeks before kickoff? But
Andy Reid will invent a miracle elixir that can fix Chris Jones's injury within the first 2 weeks or something. That's the kind of magic that the Chiefs seem to have at this moment in time in the NFL.
So, yeah, I think the Chiefs win that division. I think it's theirs until it's not, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? They own it until they don't. So somebody's got to come take it from them. And then, the one team that, even though I have them really low, that wouldn't shock me if they were really good is the Broncos, just because of the Sean Payton effect. They have a lot of
it's strange how I could either see the Broncos getting 3 wins this year or
13
making the playoffs.
I'm being sarcastic, but
or like 11. Would you be surprised if the Broncos won 11 or 12 games this year? No, not even a little bit. But I would be really, really surprised if they won 8. It's either going to be shit or unbelievable.
Well, yeah, because you're at a point where you have a guy who played quarterback at a high level for a lot of years. He has one completely fucking awful year, and everybody writes him off.
Yeah. I'd be more sure because if they're on course to only win 8 games this season as well, I genuinely think they take Russell Wilson out and put whoever back in. I'm surprised he hasn't traded for Taysom Hill.
Yeah,
genuine.
He signed Taysom Hill to a really big contract when he was in New Orleans. I don't think they want to pay that money. Taysom Hill's making like double-digit or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
millions. So
yeah, well, when you play tight end, backup quarterback, wide receiver, and probably punt returner at some point, then
I don't know.
mean,
I've had him
surely
on my fantasy
the jobs
team
add up.
It doesn't help.
Oh yeah, he was added as a tight end last year, wasn't he? He was tight end on fantasy last year.
Yeah. So all right, the NFC West. I'll start it out. This one, Cardinals, because first of all they're tanking and they don't have their quarterback, maybe even for the whole year. They're going to be 4. Mm-hmm. Rams will be 3 because they're in a whole rebuild, and I really think Matt Stafford. They squeezed the last of the juice out of Matt Stafford with that Super Bowl win because unlike other quarterbacks, he's an old 30-something. Mm-hmm. Like, because he's been beat up bad.
He's a Ben Roethlisberger 30-something.
Yeah, and then I got the Seahawks at 2, and then I got the 49ers winning that division for however many straight years that is now.
Yeah, I mean, if the 49ers keep fit, then they win that division. I also like the thing. Sam Darnold is probably
in the story best spot for Sam Darnold.
Yeah, Sam Darnold is probably is a story that's being quite swept under the rug at the moment. He's with the whole Trey Lance thing. It's like, hang on, does that mean Sam Darnold is balling out? Is that what we're getting here? That's that Sam Darnold is balling out to a point where the front office have said, do you know what, we can take the embarrassment of trading up that many picks. Is that what Sam Darnold's doing? I doubt it's to that extent, but they have a decent backup quarterback there if Brock Purdy gets injured. I've got the Cardinals, Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers as well. I think the Seahawks can make a play in this division this year. Does Geno get better? Does he get worse? That's the big question.
I think he gets worse, but that's just me because he is Geno Smith.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he was getting worse to the end of last season. I'd be surprised if he was better.
Well, should we talk about maybe the worst division in all the NFL here?
Yeah, is this the worst division?
No, I was going to say, should Cardinals... we talk about it, the AFC South?
Yeah, but I knew you were moving to the AFC South, but does the Cardinals supersede? Like, the Cardinals are going to be so bad and are making it so obvious that they're not going to try and win anything. Do they then just supersede everyone?
That's the Colts are going to be that bad, too. Especially without Jonathan Taylor and starting a rookie quarterback like that really isn't the best thrower of the football.
They beat the Eagles in preseason. They beat the Eagles yesterday. How much do you put on preseason?
0.
I don't put anything on it.
I don't think the Vikings have won a preseason game in 3 years.
Actually, I forgot to mention this when I said the Ravens, that they've just I think that losing they put so much focus on their unbeaten preseason record that it was hampering them in the regular season because they were so up for it in the preseason they couldn't keep it going. So now they're able to just keep
worried about winning a preseason game. You're not really evaluating situations and players correctly. Like, I look at teams that just use the preseason as an evaluation as to be the smarter of the teams, right? Like, so I'm just I put 0 stock into the preseason, except for there's things that I want to see, like I said, from our young quarterback, Jaron Hall. Are you throwing into tight windows? Are you accurate? Are you reading the defense correctly, even though it's vanilla and generic? Those are the things you can get out of it. But other than that, I just think wins and losses in the preseason are crazy to even think that they matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So for the AFC South, I've got the bottom 3 teams in this division are horrendous. I've got the Texans, I've got the Titans, I've got the Colts, all with losing records, and then the Jags win the division.
So you have the Texans as 4?
Texans at 4, Titans at 3, Colts at 2.
You think the Colts will be better than the Titans? Really?
I just think they're all so bad. I think they're all going to have losing records. The Colts, where the Colts get it for me is they have a halfway decent offensive line who performed badly last year. So let's assume that That's an off season for them last year. And it was also Matt Ryan wasn't throwing the ball for 6-7 seconds and can't move from left to right. They have at least a modicum of ability in the offensive game because Anthony Richardson can run the ball. So at least they're going to move the ball somewhat. However, they won't be able to throw it. But anyway, that moves on. And then defensively, on the defensive side of the ball, they look halfway decent. The Texans have a quarterback that is going to be an excellent game manager. CJ Stroud, once they get enough talent around him, he'll be an excellent game manager. They just need more talent. Who's the running back? Rookie running back. Was unbelievable in fantasy last year for the Texans.
Oh, shit, I had him. Pierce.
I was trying to trade him off you for weeks and weeks and weeks. But Pierce, he can add a bit of gas to them, but I just haven't seen where they've got better. The Titans, although they did get they obviously have got better wide receiver. They got D-Hop. They have not got necessarily better at quarterback. I think Tannehill is washed personally. However, in the preseason, Malik Willis looked halfway decent. So I think they're all going to have losing records. So I didn't put that much thought into them.
I got it. I got it. Colts at 4, Texans at 3, Titans at 2, and then Jags winning the division. So I just couldn't believe that. Like, I think the Titans are going to actually not be great or anything, but they're going to be significantly better than the Colts and the Texans. That's just me.
Yeah, I think the Jags are. I think the Jags are in a position now where they could be like the Patriots in terms of that division is going to be weak for a number of years. So you're already starting 6-0 if you play halfway decent, and then you can save yourself for the postseason, which is going to help them out. They have an excellent quarterback, really well coached team. I like their weapons that they've got going on there. Their defense is starting to take shape. I think the Jags, although we have been saying a lot in this show about historically badly run organizations, I think the Jags are turning a corner.
Don't underestimate Vrabel's defense either.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So we'll move on to the NFC South, which is another fucking dumpster fire of, well, at least it looks like a dumpster fire. I got at 4 the Falcons. At 3 I have the Panthers. At 2 I have the Bucks. At 1 I have the Saints.
Okay, I've got Bucks at 4. I've got the Falcons at 3, Panthers at 2, and then the Saints at 1. I think, yeah.
What makes you put the Bucks 4th with that receiving core?
I don't think they have the quarterback capabilities to get it to that receiving core. I think that Baker, I do like Baker, and he did.
It's every other year, bro, and this is the other year. It's every other year.
No. He had his other year last year playing for the Rams. He was too good. He was too good. Yeah, he was too good. He was too good for the Rams. I think that their offensive line injury issues, I think their offensive line, when they're actually all on the field together, is excellent. And then they jump straight up to 2 if they have good offensive line play. But they've shown that they have serious injury issues. And as you say, no team in the NFL has good offensive line depth. And I think if you can't stand and throw the ball to these excellent wide receivers, then you're going to struggle. And I think this is a real come down year for the Bucks. I think this is their organization just like exhaling after everything with Brady. I still think they were kind of hoping Brady might come out of retirement again last year and stuff like that. This is the year where they're going right back to normal. Let's rebuild and go again. Have you seen that rebuilding the stadium back to taking the seats out and putting the swimming pools and stuff back in because they're not expecting to get the attendance?
With the Panthers, though, I just have zero faith in their coaching because I think Frank Reich is overrated. Like, Frank Reich, what did he do with Carson Wentz? Wait, what did he do with the Colts, who were supposed to be a Super Bowl contender? Like, it's just, I just feel bad for Bryce Young because I just don't think he has the right coaching staff around him. And no offense to Adam Thielen, who I absolutely love, but if he is your number 1 receiver, you're in trouble.
Yeah, 100%. And again, this is not a good division. I think the Falcons could be sneaky good. When you have the quarterback play of Desmond Ridder, I don't think you're going to go too far, no matter how many cool running gadgets you've got. I think the Desmond Ridder is not good enough to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. This division is not going to be great. However, the Saints look semi-strong, and Derek Carr is a good quarterback. So, yeah, they've got them. They're kind of getting themselves out of the cap hell.
I got them winning the division by default.
Yeah, that works. That works for us.
All right, Maddie. Well, we made it through the divisions, so time to make ourselves look foolish and give our way too early Super Bowl prediction. You want me to go first? You want to go first? What do you want?
You go first.
All right. So, because it's way too early and I can do this, and I think there's actually a legitimate chance in the NFC, I'm riding with my Vikings in the NFC. Going to the Super Bowl. Way too early prediction, but they're one of the teams I have in the mix for it, so I might as well ride with my guys. And then mark it down, no doubt about it, 100% lock. Jets are going to the Super Bowl.
All right, brave. That there is a brave Super Bowl prediction. When are we allowed to change these, or are these our Super Bowl predictions?
Anytime you want during the season, you can change it.
Right. Okay.
This is the way too early.
This is the way too early. Right. The division ones, these are our division picks now because we're like a week away from the season. These are our division picks. Done loads of research into them. Okay. I'm allowed to change these Super Bowl picks.
Cool. Absolutely. So this is the way too early Super Bowl picks.
In that case, I'm going to say the Ravens beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. So Ravens to the Super Bowl, and I'm going to say that I don't even know the NFC. The NFC is for the NFC. I'm going to say that it's going to be the Seahawks are going to make a late play to go to the.
You got two birds facing off.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the Seahawks. Bearing in mind, we can change this whenever we want, and we just not doing it for clickbait.
If you made me put money on it, I probably would have picked the Eagles. But since it's the fun way too early.
Yes, that's why I'm. The way that I see it is I think the 49ers are going to get too many injuries down the stretch. The Cowboys are going to choke as always. I think the Eagles.
The Eagles and probably the Vikings are the four teams that everybody's talking about right now anyway. So they were the low-hanging fruit. So I was just like, well, if they're up in there, I'm gonna take my Vikings. Screw it.
Yeah, and I mean the Eagles are the Eagles are probably the safest choice. But how often does the team that lost the Super Bowl the year before, how often do they go back?
They usually have a hangover.
They usually have a hangover. There's never a quarterback has never gone back to the Super Bowl after losing his first Super Bowl appearance. So Jalen Hurts is never going to make it back to the Super Bowl. And I think that the Vikings do have a genuine chance to make it back this year. I just fear their defense a little bit. Always fear their defense a little bit. And Pete Carroll is a monster in the playoffs.
I'll tell you this. There's rumors out of Minnesota that the offensive coaches, not Kevin O'Connell, the other offensive coaches, got pissed off because Brian Flores has been sending heat since day one of minicamp.
Yeah, well, the Cowboys have had to take Micah Parsons off the field to get any offense going. So yeah, it's all, it's crazy.
I just love the idea of aggressive defense, especially after the way the Vikings played last year.
It's going to be nice to see a Vikings team. I love
Kendrick. He was not great in this 3-4, so to have fast linebackers. Ivan Pace is undrafted free agent that's blowing people away. But the only reason that guy was an undrafted free agent is because he's 2 inches too short. That shit is so weird to me. Like, this guy is the defensive player of the fucking year in college, but nobody's going to draft him because he's 5'10", not 6 foot.
Yeah.
Weird shit.
Yeah. That's
weird shit.
Yeah, weird. Football is a game for people of all sizes as well. Deuce Vaughn is going to get so many yards this year, I think.
Either you can play or you can't. Like, that's football, right? Like, you can have all the metrics in the world, but either you can play or you can't.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah, I'm excited. We're 2 weeks away from today for the first Sunday. We're 10-ish days away without doing math from that Thursday night game. So, it's creeping up on us. It's going to be exciting. I get really exciting for football, but I also get this weird depression because it means cold weather's coming.
I love cold weather. I've been absolutely... So, got to remember, I live in the world of no AC. So summer is just horrendous for us in general. So
can't you just go to a store and buy a fucking air conditioner and put it in your window?
No, too expensive. Too expensive. For the 1 month of the year where it's hot enough to warrant an AC.
You can get like an air conditioner in the US for like $100.
Yeah, exactly. Because you guys use them. We don't. So like
it's so fucking odd to me how shit works around the world. Like it's just because you get caught in your own little life, right? You travel more like outside of your country, but for us in the US who don't go outside the country a lot, I think we get to this generalization where like just because I can do it, everybody else can do it.
Yeah. So I've been in Germany, Poland, and Czechia, the Czech Republic, for the past month and a half. So basically all of August and half of July. It's been 30 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit because you guys are the only ones who use it. But it's been 30 degrees Celsius, and I've been staying in hostels the entire time. Nowhere uses AC because it's only hot enough to justify AC for the month of August.
So regular hotels have air conditioning in the rooms?
Not like really fancy ones, yeah. But people's houses don't have AC. Like my house, I've never been in a house that's had AC. The only time I've ever used AC is in Florida when I went on holiday there once, and in Thailand,
I don't even know if you China. Know what it is, but outside of my house, I have a central air unit, so it blows it through the same place your furnace goes through.
Right.
Plus, in my bedroom, I have an extra window unit in case it gets too hot.
Yeah, we just don't have that. So you know when Brits were complaining, it went up to 40 degrees in the UK in the summer last year. That's a different type of hot for us because it's unescapable. Like in
105 in Fahrenheit to Celsius.
Houses in Central Europe and Northern Europe are designed to keep heat in. So your house is hotter inside than outside. So if it's 40 degrees outside, then you're screwed.
Yeah. So no, I was just going to tell you I had to do the math, but or the conversion. Just the other day here, it was 40.5 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, and that's awful.
Minus 32 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius. And at some point in the winter, we will get to minus 35.5.
Yeah, I suppose that's the other benefit of these. But like in the UK, it's basically the weather goes from like maybe -5 at the coldest day Celsius up to 30 most of the time.
See, and we range from negative 35 to 40.
Yeah. Now, so honestly though, now I live in Latvia, so we've got -20 on the way. So that's why I like winter. Winter for me is like, oh, it's clipping 0. But in Riga, it's like -20 coming up. And then the summer is like 30 as well. But their houses are better heating. So that's good as well. In the UK, we basically just have these brick houses that don't have crazy amounts of heating and don't have crazy amounts of air conditioning.
In Wisconsin, we go from Siberia in the winter to like Vegas dry heat in the beginning of the summer to Florida humid heat in the end of the summer. So we're in the humid time right now. Like we get this weird cycle in Wisconsin.
If you guys are still watching and would like, because me and Jay talk about this kind of stuff a lot off camera. So if you would like to hear us chat more about the differences between like the States and Europe is probably a better one for me to speak on, but we can do the UK as much as possible as well. Then please let us know in the comments or just on polls and stuff in general, and we can do more chats like that at the end of shows. But yeah.
And for you guys who aren't already, go over and follow us on Rumble because we'll have some Rumble exclusives sometime coming up this year.
I think that's where we should put all of our fantasy football content is on Rumble, but we can talk about that after.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we made it to an hour and 15 minutes on our first show back for the regular season. I hope you didn't miss us too much. I miss talking to you, Maddie, so it's nice to see you instead of just text you.
Yeah, it's always good to get back on it. It means football's around the corner as well.
All right, guys, make sure you keep your eyes open for all the shows on the Yankee and the Brit. We got MMA Underground this week coming up. Check it out. I don't want to spoil it, but we got some big names for MMA Underground from both the Scrapyard and the West Coast. And then the week after, we have Bellator fighter coming on and Hell on Wheels from the OG Yard. So make sure you check that out and just keep your eyes open because the Connor and Heffron show will be now coming to the Yankee and the Brit. So they're coming over to our channel. So make sure you keep your eyes on that. And if you don't recognize either of the names, one of the guys is Montana from Well Beyond the Arc, which him and Manoli kill it. So thank you guys for watching. I'll quit rambling and get the hell out of here. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.